Yeah, right. So welcome to the Committee of the Whole for April 26th. The meeting is called to order. In the boardroom, we have Amy, Jean, Joanna, Carol, myself. Online, we have Naveed and Donna. Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Sending their regrets is Margot. And for now, Shani, not sure if he's joining us tonight or not. So, Kelly will be joining us. She's just not in the room right now. Thank you for letting me know. All right. So tonight, Carol, you will be honoring the land. Go ahead.
Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Attawandaron to the Haudenosaunee and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today on these treaty lands, we have the responsibility to honor and respect the four directions: land, waters, plants, animals, ancestors that walk before us, and all the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for sharing their traditional territory with us.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Carol, would you like to move a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
All right. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, the agenda. Oh, sorry. There is some discussion. Go ahead.
I just have one question. I think there was an addition, and I haven't yet looked at the newest version.
So the latest agenda addition to the agenda is Joanna. She's bringing forth the motion that she'd like to present at next week's board meeting.
Okay, so I didn't have a chance to review the agenda since it was updated, so I may not be able to participate in that conversation.
Okay.
I've also, to all trustees through the vice chair, Trustee Kohler did provide the Code of Conduct policy with amendments for discussion. I've just attached it to the agenda and emailed it right before the meeting. So if you can check your inboxes, that document's there. I'll also work with our communication staff to have it updated on the board website after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. All right, this evening we have for approval on the consent agenda, the 2.1.1 draft minutes of the Committee of the Whole, April 13, 2023, and the order paper. Joanna, would you like to move the motion to approve the consent agenda?
And I so move.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, the consent agenda is approved by unanimous consent. So that brings us up to discussion items. We have one item for discussion. Manager Carrillo, would you like to discuss committee report submission?
Thank you, Vice Chair, and to all trustees. This is just a summary of current practices with respect to committee reporting. Committee reporting being how committees who have met bring their information to board either for information or for action. So presently, the information is as presented in front of you. Presently, committees hold their meeting, they have their discussions. Should any recommendations come out of those committees, then the committee chairs typically draft a report, submit them to the board for the board agenda. And verbal updates, when available, are delivered for information at the board under committee reports. I understand in past terms there was a more formal reporting process where there was a form used where the information following each standing committee or ad hoc committee would be entered in this form, and then that data would be used to populate a committee report template. If trustees wish to follow that process again, that would give us an opportunity to standardize how information is reported back to the board from its standing committees. And it would also give the opportunity to provide the committee reports in writing on the board package as opposed to verbal updates. So the question is just for trustees to consider whether any changes needed to the committee reporting or either the previous workflow or any other changes to the current practice if they're needed.
Okay, so I will look to our speakers list. Amy, go ahead.
Thank you. So I like the way we're currently doing it, but I also see room for perhaps the minutes from standing committee and ad hoc committee meetings could be approved at committee of the whole. So that could be part of the consent agenda because right now all of our minutes are posted online and previously minutes from committees that weren't committee of the whole, the minutes were never published. So I think that would be a big move towards transparency, and that would negate the need for a report because the minutes would be there, and so it's less work for everybody. How does that sound?
Okay. There are no other speakers, so I'll speak. So I think that makes sense for the standing committees, because the standing committees do write minutes, take minutes, and they are available. I'm thinking about all the other committees out there. So, for example, ELSI, the environmental, I can't remember what ELSI stands for. Sustainability Leadership Committee. So,
but point of order, we're talking about ad hoc committees and standing committees. Those are staff-run committees. They're not the same thing.
Right, but I think in the past, the trustee rep on that committee would write a report and share it with the board so that the entire board of trustees would know what's happening on that committee. And I know that because I've written reports in the past to share at board. So I think there's different levels of committees that we're all in. So it comes down to what committees should be writing reports to share with the Board of Trustees. So I think maybe that needs to be discussed in more detail. Go ahead, Jean.
Yeah, I'm pulling on my memory strings here. I think we receive committee reports at meetings that are verbal. If they've been posted somewhere or maybe captured in a folder, I personally haven't found them or looked for them, I guess. I've just taken the information, and if I've had questions, I've asked those questions. I certainly want to see this easy for all of our committee work, whether it's just that we, as Amy has said, take our minutes and post our minutes. I don't want to create work for people. I mean, it's already enough to take minutes and have them collected. And then as we see here in the current state, when action items are required, then there's a draft motion that has to be in a very set procedural format. So there's lots of learning and things to take place, but I'm looking to simplify it if we can. This most simple but effective way of sharing information that come out of our committees. Thank you.
Amy?
Statutory committees also have minutes, and they are all posted on online as well. They could be shared in the same way as standing committee and ad hoc committee minutes. As far as staff-run committees, there's no statutory requirement for those meetings to be open to the public. So that would be up to staff whether or not they wanted to provide the minutes from their meetings. I know they keep minutes, but I wouldn't want to enter the wrong lane here, stay in my lane. That's a staff-run committee, and while we might report as a member of the committee, it's not the same because it would be a perspective instead of being minutes. So I'm also wanting to keep things simple.
All right, so what I think I heard everyone say is we don't want to make work a project. We want to keep things simple. What I also, and I think we need to differentiate between the different committees we have. So we have statutory committees that are obligated to take minutes, so those minutes are available somewhere. We have staff committees that are not obligated to take minutes, but I think for the most part they do, so they would be available somewhere. And then we have standing committees, 3 of them, which do take minutes, and they are available on the website now, right? I'm looking at Carol because I know she takes minute. We're okay, so I'll finish and then someone can jump in. So there are standing committees that do take minutes, so it's a matter of where are those minutes saved. And then there are ad hoc committees. So yeah, we can, so to make it simple, we can do away with committee reports, knowing that the minutes exist elsewhere. So then to a point you said earlier, Amy, it's where can we find all these minutes so that it isn't a make work project? And maybe we can talk to that. Go ahead, Amy.
For standing committees, the minutes are all on the Google Drive, and Jean Carrillo posts them on the website. So I know that the ones for the 2 standing committees that I'm on are posted right after the meetings by Jean Carrillo. As with the audit committee, it's also posted. SEAC is also posted. And trustees also get electronic copy sent directly to them for audit and SEAC. PIC, I'm not entirely sure where those minutes reside, but it's also a statutory committee. There are no minutes for disciplinary committees, so that wouldn't have one. But that takes care of most of the statutory committees. Ad hoc committees, I don't think we've ever posted the minutes, but I know minutes are kept. So that would just be a matter of whoever's having them. If we can create a folder similar to the ones for the standing committees, then whoever's chairing an ad hoc committee can put the minutes in there and alert Jean every time there's a meeting so that Jean can post them. Ad hoc committees, if they're only comprised of trustees, have to do the public notification and have the agenda posted 48 hours in advance. So those minutes should be public.
All right, Joanna?
Yeah, I just want to briefly speak to the standardization of how we do it, right? Because this is relatively new, that we started to have dedicated folders on our shared Google Drive that Jean kindly created for us, where we put all the standing committee information. So I sit on many of those. I take minutes for at least one, and I was not aware that those minutes were being published on the website. So I'd like to make sure that we have, that we all do it consistently, right? In how we record things, how it appears, that we have a standard, and that we have a chance to approve those minutes before they are posted. So that's just something I wanted to flag. And while I'm talking about that, it might be helpful to learn some tips and tricks about how to upload information into the folders. Like ask Jean to help me because the document I wanted to upload, if I did that, the comments would be lost. So I need to kind of, plan in advance, right? Park the information there first before I work on it, or, what the processes are. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, so just to sum up, I think I heard you say, Joanna, that it would be good for us to get some training on the wonderful world of Google Drive. Okay, the Google Drive, and also some sort of training on how to write the best type of minutes that are shared with the public. Okay. Did I get that? Okay. Okay, so minute taking. All right. So as far as today goes, what I'm hearing everyone say is we don't have a need for written committee reports because minutes already exist. So, Jean, does that solve the whole dilemma about us having a template? And all right, so we've solved one dilemma. Now we just created another one, which is where does everything get saved? Okay, so what we can do, I'll go to Joanna again. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I'm glad we're having this conversation, but I'm not sure how we got here, what's precipitated it. Were you initially asking about a process to bring those minutes to the committee of the whole, or include them in the agenda of the committee of the whole, or how do we get to discussing this?
I think we got here because in the previous term, we had a template that a trustee could go in and use the template. It was one that Andrea had created. You would go in and write a summary of, well, it would be a report on your committee. So, for example, in my case, I remember writing some committee reports when we were on LC together. So there was a report written, a summary of what happened. I think I may even remember seeing some committee reports. So it was, yes, so there were, so some people were using it, some were not. So it brings us here today, like, do we want to continue writing committee reports? And if we don't, then we know that we have minutes, but then where are those minutes? So I think our takeaway here today is we don't want to write reports unless someone puts up their hand and says they want to write reports. Raise your hand if you do. Take your time. Okay, so nobody wants to write reports because we have minutes. So what we can do is we can take away and maybe we can just have a little cheat sheet where all the minutes can be found, and whoever needs training on how to write better minutes or training on how to navigate Google Drive, we can arrange for that. Is everyone okay with that? Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, I still think it's a great idea for them to be on the consent agenda for committee of the whole. That way they're readily available publicly and for staff and trustees, so that if you forgot where your cheat sheet was, you still know that you can find all of the minutes in the committee of the whole meeting agendas.
Okay, so we'll take that one away for
It's just
consideration.
a matter of adding a hyperlink.
Yep. Yeah, but someone has to do it.
Yeah, I get that. I get
Okay.
that. But as we get better at this, hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get better at that as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll put, go ahead, Jean.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that in this continuum of learning and in expertise when it comes to Google and finding things on the drive, I find it difficult. I have been guided and trained by both Margot and Tanya over the time, and I've kept my own cheat sheet, and it winds up being like 15 different clicks, click, 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 and finally I land to where, and I'm never going to remember that. So I would appreciate the cheat sheet, the Coles notes of Google Sheets. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your honesty, Jean. All right. So, Manager Jean, are we okay with this topic? We have another takeaway now. All right. Thank you. All right. So moving on. let me check our agenda. Where are we up to? Oh, we are up to committees now. 4.1.1, Board Self-Assessment Committee. Kelly, as the chair of the committee, the floor is yours, and we have allotted up to 90 minutes for both your topics today. All right, go ahead.
Thank you so very much. As a start, the board self-assessment committee thought it was very important that we as trustees have a discussion about why did we want to be a trustee and what do we feel we need to accomplish in this term, so the 4 years of this term. As part of a getting to know each other, but also a part of that we'll be able to reflect back later when we start doing some self-assessments of the board to say we have accomplished some of the things we wanted to or that we didn't. So I put out an email yesterday asking everybody to come prepared for 5 minutes each. I guess that's where we'll start. So maybe we could start with Tanya.
As the chair, I would like to delegate that task. No. Okay, so I was not prepared to go first. So the question is why I became trustee and what do I hope to accomplish? All right, so why did I become trustee? So this is my second term. So prior to being a trustee, I was very involved in my children's school. And I had various roles on council. So I was the PIC representative, I was the co-chair, I was the chair, I was, volunteer extraordinaire. So I was very involved with the school and also noticed what worked well, what didn't work well, and my mindset in that capacity was always, what can I do to help the school? What can I do to give my children and every child at the school the best possible learning experience? So then one time, Trustee Amos came to our school and attended one of our council meetings and mentioned that a trustee position was going to open up because of boundary realignments. So the seat was up for grabs. And me, being the ultimate person who can't say no to people, I said, sure, why the heck not? So I decided to become trustee, but it wasn't a decision I took lightly. I remember sitting down with Trustee Amos and former Trustee Harvey Hope and a few trustees that were incumbent at the time, sitting down with them, talking to them, and really understanding what this role was about and how it was more than just being a chair at a school council. So once I understood the bigger picture, I asked myself, is this something I can commit to for 4 years? Is this something that's in my... Is this something I can grow into, learn more, and can I contribute and can I make a difference? And then I thought, well, yeah, I can. So my intention in becoming a trustee was always what can I do? What can I and a board of trustees do to help a child's experience in the classroom? How can I contribute to the overall better well-being of an entire school board? So it was with that mindset that I decided to run for trustee. Now, as trustee, some of my goals are continuous learning, because I find, this is my 5th year and I'm constantly learning. So goal is to keep learning. To listen to students, listen to parents, listen to community members, see what it is they want from the school system, and in my capacity from a governance perspective, what is it that I can do or I can influence with my peers of trustees to move us along down that path. Another goal of mine is to have a functioning board where we all understand what it is we were elected to do, and for us to truly understand what our roles are, what's in our purview, what's not in our purview. I'm sure I have a lot more goals, but if they come to me, I will share them. But I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, and that's, well, good timing, 5 minutes, so. So thank you very much. Did you want to go next, Jean? Okay.
I figure it's good to go early because by the end, all the points will be mentioned. So it'll be more difficult. I would just like to say that, this is my 9th year. It's my 3rd term. The reason I ran again this term is that the 2nd term that I served as trustee, it was a stop-start with the COVID. I didn't feel that that experience was a good, fulsome 4 years of serving as a trustee when so much of our work was done from our homes and not in our communities serving our people. I bring to the table a different skill set maybe in that I spent 32 years in education, but with a different board. So I like to think that every now and then I get to cross-pollinate some of the experiences. Although, that being said, those experiences are now too long in the tooth, 9 years out as retirement from that board, too long in the tooth to be really effective at this point. So you probably hear me mention Peel less and less because I'm just too long gone from them. One of the things that I did for 32 years was get up out of Halton Hills every day and go over to another community and serve that community. And I have such a great delight in being able to serve now the community in which I live and meet up with the neighbors all around me and run into them in the supermarkets and be able to know that I'm helping in any way that I can. I have, again, a different skill set coming from education. I probably have some maybe knowledges about different ways things work in education, but it's been a true delight to come to the Halton board and work in this board because it is so different from the board that I spent my career with. What do I want to accomplish? Like you, Tanya, continuous learning. I get a real delight in growing through a provincial perspective, and that's why I attend all of the OPSPA events and am very happy to do that because it gives that even higher level looking around the province what's happening and learning from our colleagues in the province as to how they work different things through their board. Like Tanya, what do I hope that we can accomplish? I hope that we can accomplish being an effective board. I think we've got a long way to go towards that because we're just so new as a board and we're awaiting yet another new board member. And so we need to really focus in the next while of growing together before we can pull all paddles in the water, pulling at the same time in the same direction. So I look forward to that time when we have that knowledge about one another and that combined drive forward to make our contributions to this board as powerful and as successful as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. You still have a minute left if you have anything else to add. No? Okay. Amy.
Okay. I'm in my 4th term, 13th year, and about 20 years ago, when my kids were very young, I started coming to board meetings, and I would sit right over there in one of those blue chairs and watch every single board meeting because we were having boundary issues in my community. And I also had a big interest in special education. And the more I came to the meetings, the more I was learning and the more I wanted to make a difference and have a voice at the table. And so when the opportunity arose, I put my name in, and I've been very fortunate that my community's had faith in me these last 4 terms, and and has seen fit to put me in this position. I'm very grateful for that, for their confidence in me. One of the big things that I hope to accomplish is equity, true equity, where no one is marginalized, where no one feels left out, where everyone feels valued and welcome. There are many different folks out there who don't have all the same rights and privileges as the people that they go to school with, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's their gender, whether it's gender expression, LGBTQ, disabilities. There are a large number of students and staff who don't come to school or to work with the same privileges and rights as others, as much as we try to be an egalitarian society. And I work toward making that a better place for everyone. Another big issue for me is environmentalism, which kind of goes hand in glove with equity, because we all have the right to clean air, clean water, healthy food, places of nature that aren't polluted and full of garbage. And so that's another, I want us to build our buildings sustainably. I want us to invest in technologies that will be an improvement over the ones that use so many fossil fuels. Yeah, those are two big ones for me. I have a lot more. I love policy. Everyone knows that. I love policy. I shout it from the rooftops. I'm a policy nerd. And I always find things that I want us to fix in our policies, make them better, make our processes simpler, easier to follow, more understandable, more transparent to the public, so that they know what to expect. And so, yeah, those would be off the top of my head, my reasons for wanting to be a trustee and what I'm hoping to accomplish.
Thank you very much, Amy. Since we're on that side, Shawnee, do you want to have a turn?
Yeah, thank you. Basically, I'm a parent, so I have 2 children in the school, in the Halton District School Board, elementary schools. My 2 children attend in the elementary school in 3 different wards. So because we move into different community. And as a IT people, as a parent, basically, so we always expected the quality of education is good, better, best. So there's always, we can find something can improve. As IT people, my work in IT field, we always find something, the function we can improve in the software. So, or we can find some functional defect or performance defect, we can fix it. So for us, if we find something, some issues, this is not negative thing, this is positive. That means we find something, we can really work on it and make it better. And so in the past few years, I saw many children, and they are struggling in the online learning. In my experience, I learned in 3 different online programs, and also I was a facilitator and then a lead facilitator for a online university program. So at that time, we spent a lot of efforts to learn and to study how we can improve the efficiency for online programs. So I was thinking, I talked to some parents, and if we can share what I did and what we do in the university, and we can share the experience with the school, with the teachers, and make the program better, because I think we can better support teachers. So basically, of course, we need better support teachers so they can apply the new knowledge in the classroom and make the education more efficiency, make everybody happy. So this is basically the idea. Then I spoke to more parents, and they shared with me a lot of constructive ideas, very good ideas, because only the parents know what is the best for their children. And of course, this is not everything is under trustees' purview. A lot of this is provincial policy. So I just gather all the information. I found actually we can do something for the parents if we can apply some their ideas in our school board. Even we can make we can have a try. So that's the first motivation that motivates me to be a trustee. And this is my first term. In my first term, I realized there's a lot of things we need to learn. This is the policies, procedures, and the laws, and also we need to see have more input, not only from parents. We need to hear more inputs from different stakeholders. And so I know this is a learning curve. And after this learning, and at the same time, I need to discuss with different people. Of course, I already spoke to some principals and teachers. They also give me good feedback, and they have their ideas. So we just listen to different people, and if we can make the system better, that's the goal. So I believe everyone has the goal to make the education more efficiency and more effective. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sure, go ahead. Carol.
So my interactions with my own trustee at the time, Tracy L. Harrison, who I think most people in the room know, were very instructive in terms of understanding what a trustee does. I had many conversations with her before I decided to run. So I was elected to fill her seat when she retired from the board. And she demonstrated well for me the role that trustees have in helping parents and other stakeholders to understand and navigate the board. For those of us from outside of education, it can be a little bit complex to understand exactly how the bigger entity works, and as a parent to understand beyond the classroom and beyond the school. So policies and procedures, the budget formation considerations, navigating staff structure when there's questions and concerns. I hope to serve that role as well by acting as a conduit and a navigator for parents. Even in my short time in this role since November, I've observed that many concerns and complaints revolve around communication. So I hope to continue to be a facilitator when needed, make suggestions for improvement when appropriate. Within the boardroom, in this room, I hope to provide value to the director and staff as a collaborative and helpful advisor, and again, a conduit of information from stakeholders, particularly from those whose voices we do need to hear, but they may need some amplification. The singular reward from my perspective and for me personally as a trustee is a public education system in Halton that sets all students up for success, however they may define it. I have the privilege of being in schools at least once a week, both as a parent volunteer and as a trustee. Just this morning, I had the privilege of visiting a high school, which is a great experience. And I'm consistently impressed by the professionalism, the integrity, and the dedication of HDSB staff to the benefit of the students. They deserve the best governing board possible, and my goal is to be part of that. I really appreciate Jean's paddling analogy. I learned to dragon boat years ago and very quickly understood that when we're all in sync, it's so much easier to push that giant heavy boat up the river. So I think we can all take some lessons from the dragon boaters that if we can all paddle together, it will be much more pleasant and much easier. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Joanna. Okay. Donna, would you like to go next?
Sure, I can go if you want. I became a trustee. I've always had a passion for education. I grew up in a particularly poor part of Toronto, and just with family circumstances, my father, when I was younger, was an alcoholic. My brother got into drugs, and I was always told education, university was going to be my way out. So I always saw education as the great equalizer. It gives everyone an opportunity to overcome a number of barriers if it's done properly. I was very fortunate in my parents to have shining examples of the importance of education. My father had a grade 8 education, but after he quit drinking, he went on every year. He went back to engineering school. He worked on the ships, and when he died, he was a chief engineer. So he really set me an example of what could be done with education. In my early 20s, I was a tutor in the Don jail. I worked with the inmates in protective custody, and in particular, I worked with a number of ESL students. So I saw firsthand what happened when you don't have the literacy skills to fill out a job application or social assistance paperwork. And that passion for education just became stronger when my children were born. I was involved in their schools. Both of my children, you may or may not know, are on the autistic spectrum. And they were fortunate enough to be in absolutely amazing schools that made all the difference for them. So I had a passion for education all along. And then came 2006, and I was a reporter for the local paper covering the education beat, sitting at that table by Amy, covering it. And 2003 to 2006, trustees chose to fire the director of education, and I watched the aftermath of that. I watched all the senior staff leave, particularly the ones in special education, which was near and dear to my heart because of my children. And I was complaining about it, and somebody said, well, why don't you run? And so I did. I ran because I really felt there needed to be a broader perspective in the school board, and I did win. I ran against the incumbent in the chair of the board, and I got 67% of the vote. So I think a lot of the community felt the same way that I did about what had been happening at the school board. And I woke up the next day and went, now what? That was 17 years ago. And I can honestly say that in 17 years, I have learned so much, and I am continuing to learn about our board. It changes. Nobody could see some of the things that would be coming down the line, COVID, and other ministry initiatives. And we have an incredible board. And if I was to say that I have a goal, I would agree with all the goals that have been expressed so far. I think everyone has nailed it on the head. What I would add for myself is I have a goal of Halton being the board of choice for everyone. The one that everyone wants to engage in. Parents want their kids here. Kids want to be in our engaging, innovative programs. Staff want to come and work here. They want to teach. They want to broaden the horizons. They want to be free to fail, pick themselves up, and then hit it again. That we have an overwhelming applications for superintendent, for when the time comes associate director, that everyone wants to be a part of the Halton District School Board because it has that greater reputation for achievement, excellence, and equity across the province. That is my goal. That's what I would love to see us do. For me, also, the goals would be, Amy's a policy wonk. I'm actually a business wonk. My husband and I own a very successful business. I've been nominated for Business Person of the Year a number of times. I'm a financial gal as well as my social services side. And I am very, very intrigued by budgets and what we can do with budgets and how to do more with less, that to fulfill our goals for student achievement, because students are at the heart of everything we do. If we don't have students, we don't have a reason to be there, but we also have a responsibility as the largest employer in Halton. No other company in Halton has as many employees as we do, and there's a responsibility for that as well. That's why you see me. I represent all the Ontario trustees on the Labour Relations Council with OPSPA, things like that. That HR aspect of it is also extremely fascinating to me. And to me, that's a huge part of engagement too, when we can bring in diversity in our workforce. And we've always, whenever we open up our hiring, we're overwhelmed with applications. And I think that really says something as to who and where we are as a board. I look very much forward to working with, this is my fifth board that I worked with. This is my fifth term, 17 years, and every board has been very different, which in my eyes is very wonderful because there are so many new ideas that come to the table. And I know we've been caught up with a lot of things, but with one major issue over the last, I'm really looking forward to going forward the next 3.5 years, getting to know every one of you, because we're all very different. We all have very different perspectives. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of that gels into exactly what Carol and Jean were talking about, us all paddling in the same direction. We may hold our paddles differently. We may have different colored paddles or different size paddles, but I really believe that we all have something to bring to the table, and my goal is to see that everyone gets an opportunity to be engaged in that future stakeholder engagement and moving us forward. So that's in a nutshell. That's me.
Thank you very much, Donna. Naveed, are you there?
Yes, please.
Would you like to go next, please?
Yeah, sure. So, good evening, everyone. Why I decided to become a school board trustee? The reason is I just wanted to contribute to the local community, and I think I mentioned it earlier also. I had the option of running for other positions like in the town council or higher, but I decided not to do it because that's not my passion. My passion is education, schools, and children. And we conduct youth leadership mentoring courses in Milton, and we've been doing it since early 2000s. And we are connected with the community, and we just want to see equal, like, equity in everything, as Amy was saying. Like, you can never find me taking sides with one group and not taking sides with the other group. So I will always be standing up for equal rights, no matter what. And I'm the guy who likes balance. So that's the thing. And also, I think I want to listen to the community more, to the parents more, and bring it to the board, and see how we can address their concerns, how we can solve the problems. Because one of my main strengths is sifting through the problems and getting to the bottom of the problem and finding the solution. So being in the management, I think I developed that, and I can pinpoint the solution or the root of the problem very quickly, and I can put my finger on the pulse. So first and foremost, I just want to learn, because after spending like 6 or 8 months in the board, I am still thinking that I don't know much, don't know enough, and I just have to keep learning. I have to be a good student. So I look towards all the senior team, senior members of the board to keep teaching me, and you'll find me a good student. And also, I will bring my opinion to the table when I see that it is needed, because that's why I'm here anyway. So I'll never shy away from expressing my opinion, my thoughts, and standing up for it if I feel that this is the right thing. And if I'm convinced that, okay, the stand that I'm taking is lesser than the other stand that is being presented to me, and that has more merit, then I'll back down. I'll be the first one to admit mistakes. You will not find me that I have even one bit of ego in me. I will always be ready to correct myself, correct the course, but at the same time, I'll stand up for the right thing, always. And if I don't see right thing happening, you'll always see me standing up for it. Moving forward, one of my goals is to keep visiting schools, keep building relationships with the school staff, and also with the community members, like students, parents, and everybody, especially the parents and school staff. and let's see how it goes. And whenever I have any questions and any doubts, I'll keep coming back to senior trustees, because very kindly they keep teaching me, they keep showing me the way, and I've been learning from them. And what else? Yeah, I just have to feel that the people are honest for me to keep going. There is this part is missing in me, where I can put up with dishonesty. That part has not been fitted in me. So as long as I see that honesty is there, I will be there for anything. And as I said, equal rights. Coming from a minority background, especially from a community that's been marginalized, maligned, and like held to account on many occasions by the media and face public court and whatnot. I know what facing hardships is, and going through all that, you develop a sense for justice and equality. And once you develop that justice and equality sense in you, you want it for everyone. Everyone, you want it for everyone, and that's what I want. I want to become the voice of everyone who feel threatened, who feel that they're not being heard of, and who are marginalized. I don't want to name names, but every single group. I'm not for one group. I'm for everyone. So that's me, and I don't know what much to say. Yeah,
Thank you very
that's all.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Nagit. Okay,
Thank you.
Joanna.
All right. So I am a refugee. I was once a new Canadian. English is my second language. I'm a strong supporter of public education. And my dear grandmothers always stressed to me the importance of education, a sentiment my parents shared. My one grandmother was very active in her children's school community. And so that inspired me to pay attention and become an active supporting member of my child's school community by being a member of school council and volunteering on different initiatives. And, once you kind of get involved at that level, one begins to pay attention to how things unfold, and the business of the board becomes quite important and relevant. And at the time, there was an optional program placement happening that was resulting in school boundary reviews. The issue was incredibly divisive in my ward, to a point that neighbors and friends were parting ways and arguing over what was happening and how things were unfolding. And I thought, surely this is not the intent of our educators, and surely there's a way to do this better. And so, I looked at the function of the school board, and I thought that perhaps I have a different skill set and perspectives that I could bring to the table. And having the support of others, I decided to run for the position, and was successful. So this is my ninth year, like Jean. She and I started at the same time. And each term has been very unique. The first term, we dealt with a lot of challenging issues, where we had to do a lot of evaluation, a lot of looking at options, what was in the best interest of all students. And it wasn't driven by anyone's self-interest. It was driven by what's in the best interest of all, right? So if it's good for my kid, it's got to be good for all the kids. And I like to think that I'm a kind of big picture strategic person. So I like to, look at all the options and strategically think down the road. How do we support HDSB? How do we support a really strong public education system, not just locally, but provincially. So I did get involved with OPSPA and the various committees, learning about the role of trustee, learning how I can support it, looking at what are some of the external influences and how we can have a part in either supporting or counteracting them. The second term was largely interrupted by the pandemic. And so that pulled us out of school. Something that I really missed doing was the constant interaction with the school community, with parents, with students. It's what kept myself grounded, my work grounded. And so I was really looking forward to returning to that, which is why I ran again. And at the time, of course, we've had a lot of changes with new director, new senior team. And I thought it was important to have a little bit of continuity as well. To help, build strong relationships between the board, between staff, and collectively, as the world is ever changing, especially post-pandemic, we've seen some big changes and challenges. It's important to look at, what's happening in the world. How does that impact our students, impact HDSB? What role collectively can we play to support our students? And so I'm really, my goal is to continue to do the best I can as a trustee that's guided by evidence and data and expertise from staff to support our students, our schools, our staff, our communities, and to, look at what's coming down the pipeline from the Ministry of Education. What are some of the intended and unintended impacts that may have, and how do we ensure that our students do not suffer, but they continue to progress and to excel? And, looking at our multi-year plan, we're in essence growing global citizens. So what does that mean? How do we support these students in becoming successful, prospering global citizens to the best of their own abilities? And so I really want to work with everyone to support the HDSB and to make sure that the Halton District School Board can continue to enjoy the reputation it has enjoyed as a very thriving and well-respected, well-functioning school board in Ontario.
Thank you, Joanna. Sorry, I'm taking notes on everybody so I can try and pull it together. Okay, so I guess it's my turn. Originally, when I was going to talk, I was only going to talk about this term, but everybody's gone back to the beginning. So when I became a trustee, I actually didn't know what I was doing. There was an ad in the newspaper looking for an interim trustee because the trustee for the area had left. And I was involved in my children's schools and thought, well, I can do what they're asking for. I want to make sure that my children and all the students are represented appropriately. And then the person was from my area, and I thought, so I went and talked to some teachers and some other parents, and I went for the interview, and then I found out I got it. Well, I really found out that I really didn't know what I was getting into because the second meeting that I attended, they were closing a school. And so I had to do some really quick research to find out if that was really something that should be happening because I had jumped into the middle of a conversation. And as it turned out, I did support it, and it was the right thing to do. And we've had to close a bunch of schools since then, which is always a really tough thing to do. But if you're doing it for the right reasons and it's about the students, which is what my whole philosophy is, if it's the right thing for students, then it's the right thing. So this is my 6th+ term. I've been a trustee since 2000, and I have probably seen it all. Including some of what Donna spoke. I lived through that. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I don't want to return there. So We have done some great things as a board, and in my opinion, the Halton District School Board is one of the best school boards in Canada. What we do for students, how we support our students, our staff, and our community. We have people who move here just to come to Halton because the reputation is so great. And I want to make sure that we continue making sure that that is we continue on that, and that we still do the right thing for students. So some of the things I'd like to accomplish this term is, and that's the reason I am still here, is because with COVID, I didn't feel that we were really effective as trustees. We weren't being able to really communicate with the communities. We weren't being able to represent the students the same way. So with COVID, it seemed like this blip. I wanted to get back out there to make sure that we were still doing what we were supposed to and make sure that we're doing the right things for students and supporting our communities and our parents. So I may be a little bit more in the weeds than some of you about the global philosophy. Well, I want us to all come together as a board, and I know we will. And part of that is getting to know each other, and I hope this is a dialogue that will give us a bit of a basis to start that. Some of the things I like to see is, okay, and this is my age, home ec and shop, which is called tech and family studies, back into grade 7 and 8. Now that it's being reintroduced into high school, I would like to see it back into the lower grades, because that gives some students a place to thrive. It gives them a basis of things that they need to be able to have as tools that will help them in their life skills. I would like to see high schools start later, because it has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that the teenage circadian clock is later, and students that start early in high school, those first classes that they're in, unless it's an active class like phys ed, they are really struggle through some of those classes. And I know some of these things are driven by money and the fact that we don't have it, or the funding is not there, but I think we're going to have to start being creative. And the other thing I really think that I would like to restart is looking at the fact that we're one of the lowest funded school boards in the province. Now that the funding has been announced this time around, and I believe that from documents that I've read, that since 2018, the actual funding for students has decreased by $2,800 a student, that is significant, and that we as trustees, we really need to maybe start standing up for the students so that we can do more for them as for them in this board. And the fact that we're one of the highest accomplishing boards in the province is fantastic, but just think if we had those extra dollars, how much better they would be. So those are some of the things. The other thing was, I am really excited about the multi-year plan that we're going to be looking at next year. And some of the exciting things that we as a board are going to be able to focus on, and for the next, like, you look 10 years ahead when you're looking at the multi-year plan, and the things that we're going to want students to try to be able to accomplish, because things have changed so much with COVID. We're now open to more possibilities than ever before. So those are some of the things from my perspective. So I'd like to thank everybody very much for sharing all of your stories about why you started and what you're hoping to accomplish. And I guess we're missing Margot, but maybe we can catch up with her sometime. But I would like to pull some of the things that we'd like to all do as a board, and have that as part of where in 4 years' time we can look back and say, did we accomplish some of the things we wanted to do? So the committee will be looking at some ways of getting feedback from you sometime in the next board, couple committee of the wholes. And so look forward to getting some type of a questionnaire from them, from us, about, so we can get your feedback. But anyways, thank you very much for participating in this. It was, I believe, a very worthwhile exercise. So.
Kelly, your last idea sounds like a time capsule to me. Kind of putting, our thoughts together and then 4 years from now, opening it up and just seeing if we as a board of trustees have been effective in accomplishing what we set out to accomplish.
That's a wonderful idea. And maybe there's something we can do around that.
So I'll see if there's anyone that wants to speak. I'll look to the speakers list and then Kelly can take it on. Go ahead, Amy.
I also appreciated the ability to participate in home ec when I was in school, but it really bothered me that the boys could do shop and the girls had to do home ec. I always thought we could equally benefit from learning both. And so if we're going to bring that back, let's not make it split between girls and boys. Let the girls and boys learn both, because a girl can benefit from learning those things that the boys learn in shop, like how to change a tire or how to saw a piece of wood. And the boys can learn to sew on a button or boil an egg and benefit from that. And, the genderization of those two topics always bothered me and bothers me to this day. So if we're going to bring it back properly and actually make it truly about economics. Home economics isn't just about boiling an egg and sewing on a button. It's about running a household. And budgeting is really important in that. Learning how to build a budget and live within a budget. We are a country rampant in personal debt, and it's because nobody knows how to live within a budget. So teaching that at the school level would be really important. So I would love to see that happen, and I would also hope that we get some of that shop stuff in there too. So that'd be good.
All right, I'm next on the speakers list. So by the time I got to school, I did take both. So not to speak about, just continuing yeah, you're older than I am. But to speak to home economics and shop class, I am glad that we do offer similar courses in high school, and we are allowing students to pick it if they so choose. So I like that we have it available. Maybe not in elementary, but we do have it available. So my question to you, all these courses aside, so based on what we said here today, is it the committee's goal then to write down what we hope to accomplish and what else we hope to accomplish over our 4-year term, and do like a yearly check-in report? Okay, what did we do at end of year 1? What have we done at year 2? Is the committee's idea that we form committees to see these goals come to fruition? So I'm just looking to see what are the next steps based on today's exercise.
So I'm glad you mentioned the fact that it became mixed, because I did know that, and I agree with you that the fact that it hadn't been when we were at school, but it did a few years later, so which was great. So the next steps was to take it back to the committee, basically to see what they want to do with this. And I like some of the ideas I'm hearing from you about whether we come back on a yearly basis or but I just was gathering the information and we hadn't gone any further, so we were going to have a discussion at the next meeting.
All right, Kelly, there are no other speakers, so if you want to go on to your second topic.
Well, should we take a break because we need everybody? So why don't we take a 2-3 minute break?
Okay, yeah, we could take like a 5-minute bio break because we did well for time. So let's take a 5-minute bio break and then we'll come back and we'll start off with you. Okay, all right. So at 7:18, Okay, we are back. And first on the agenda is Kelly on behalf of the Board Self-Assessment Committee. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, this is sort of a departure from the Board Self-Assessment Committee, but since I was on the agenda, I asked if I could do this. And Jean, can you put up the PowerPoint? So I was recently down at the National School Board Association conference. It was in Orlando this year, but it travels around the country. And what it is there's school boards from across North America and outside who come and do learning and presentations and all kinds of stuff. And I know there's a number of other people here that have gone to them in the past. And it's a great resource to meet people, and there are usually trustees. They call them superintendents, but they're directors down there, human resource people, and lots of different thinking. And for me, it's a great way of not just learning, but it's also great because you're getting the opportunity to dialogue with people from around North America and beyond. And you find out, in my opinion, how well we do here in Halton. I spoke to a couple of other Canadian representatives. They were from Alberta and one was from the East Coast. And I still think that we are ahead and doing really well. One of the exercises I went to was called, I'm having a brain fade, just a minute. It was called Self-Care and Conflict Management. So I thought it was a very useful exercise to share with everybody because there were some good learnings for me anyway, and I thought I'd share them with you. So can you go to the next page? Next one. So down there they will share, when you go to the conference, they will share a lot of their notes, their presentations with you so that you can take them back and share. So what this was about was everybody is acknowledging the fact the last few years, especially with COVID, has been really tough for everybody. And it's been a very difficult time, not just for the boards, but for each other individually. And so this was a workshop about trying to identify some strategies about taking care of yourself and managing that conflict because of the challenging times. And in some ways, I believe they actually had some more difficult times than we did from some of the stories I heard, but then, I mean, it's all subjective because you only hear a snapshot. Next one. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is an activity, and it's called My Plate is Full, and these are plates, so let's use your imagination. So, can you go to the next one? So, I want everybody to take your plate, and I want you to put down, write on it with a pen or a paper or a pencil, whatever you have, and write down every single thing that you have a responsibility around. So whether it's your family work, your volunteering, whether it's the board and different things, about being a parent. So I'd like everybody to take a couple minutes and do that first, please. Laundry never goes away. Household chores, right? It's hilarious. Oh no, did he break? No, I bet he did. He need a bathroom. At least there's some laughing in there too, probably. I'll give everybody one more minute. Not yet. Okay, is everybody mostly done? Okay, so I'd like everybody to pair up, well, can pair up around the room and just, let's just talk for like 2 or 3 minutes about all the things we have in our lives, just to debrief. And so we can all see how much we actually have on our plates at this moment, okay? So everybody could just do that for like 2 minutes?
Kelly, Naveed and I are talking offline, so we're already following that instruction.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Hello. So, how's your plate?
Kind of full. I threw a lot of things up there, but when I tried to do like home and work, right?
Yeah.
Realizing that there's lots, right? And both, sometimes you think it's all work.
Yeah.
Then you start looking at, oh wait, but there's a
So
lot
much
there
of
too.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where I started with the work stuff, and then I was like, okay, wait. And I thought about so many things, right?
And then like the wedding and that, other things like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're volunteering and doing anything.
And then like I've got parent care because now we've got my mom and my in-laws who are all, you know,
I've been
more.
there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
And so that's something that's new, right?
Yeah.
Because they are,
And it's a struggle.
less and less, you know, and it is, it's all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
How about you?
Oh, I've got, well, the board and all of it, but I mean, my daughter looking at buying a new house and I can't tell anybody that, but she's pregnant. It is. I volunteer in other committees and just trying to get them to do stuff. And my dog has hurt herself again, and I'm just, every time that happens, I get stressed because you can't tell what they've done and how to deal with it. And we've got some family dynamic stuff that's going on that I just want to go away, but it's not. And so it's just,
And it fits on the weight, right? And
there's times I just want to cry.
me too. And I wrote that too, like managing extended family relationships. For some reason, it's on my plate because I'm good at it, I guess, but it does on you.
It does. Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah. And my husband's been not feeling well for almost a year now, and they couldn't figure out, they kept saying, there's nothing that's going to kill you, but okay, but why is he? And so now they're treating it, and he's getting worse.
Yeah. And then that leads to anxious, trying to figure out what,
Yeah.
So yes, there's no shortage of responsibility
Is what it says. Well, and COVID has added its own complications for everybody.
Yes. Well, and that's, I wrote that too, because my daughter and I had a pretty bad time in terms of mental health, and so that's ongoing. She's good now, but it's always like
You wonder if it could come back up.
yes, because she, I think it was just really hard. She just crashed, and she would cry.
Yeah.
And say, I don't know, it's good. Just,
Well, and I think mental health is, and I was going to say that mental health is the crisis of this generation, right? And COVID has pushed us all over the edge.
it has. it really has made us, even those that didn't ever experience any anxiety and depression and whatever else, I think it pushed us into a place where we all have balance, right?
Yep.
So,
And-
kids especially too.
Oh, big time. Yeah, because they couldn't get out and play and do the things they normally be able to. Or it's the isolation, right?
Yeah, and that's a real thing.
But I think it's made some of us more isolated than because we're not resuming some of the things we used to do.
Right. Yeah. Because sometimes it's comfortable to
Just not do
push
anything.
yourself out of it. Like, and we're going on Saturday out to an event, and I didn't get tickets to it. Like, it's a anyway, we grew up in Mississauga, and it's a dance kind of thing.
Okay.
Some guys are organizing it, and it's going to be like an 80s thing. So we got tickets, and I was like, but now I'm going to go.
But the thing is, it's making yourself go.
Yeah.
Because we used to curl until my knees couldn't do it. And I was like, I don't feel like going, but I get there and I have a great time. It's just making yourself do it.
And get out the door, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was inspired about these things. And then I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
But it's just because we've become accustomed and we spend so much time not social.
And the other big thing on my plate is when my mom died, as I was looking after her, I found out just before that, she cut me out of her life. And now, and my sister found out she split it. Now she's, but she was in Colorado. Now she's suing me for her mom. Because I was in joint with my mom, and I was going to give my sister half the money. And now I have a legal suit with my sister. So I actually lost her as a friend.
That's
So it's just,
well, it's hard for you. Like first dealing with the fact that mom didn't, right? And then
now I've lost her too.
and sister, right? So
It's awful.
Yeah, that's
Because I feel like I lost my whole family. So
that's tough. Yeah. I'm really upset with they do fun of me. And not just that my husband, two brothers. Oh yeah. Unfortunately, yes, that's why I still call it that.
yeah.
And I don't know if they don't cut my sister and the kids because it would be terrible.
Well, the thing is, my mom divorced my dad. And because I didn't totally support my mom, because I still had to support my dad, that's why apparently she cut me out of the will. Yeah. But I couldn't. She also told me I was responsible for her. So, and my sister wasn't here.
Yeah.
And my brother died many years ago. So, so that's not fair. So life is not fair. Right? Okay, everybody had some good discussion. Okay, well, I think we found out, I believe, that all our plates are full. Is that not right? That we all have a lot on our plates that's more than just coming to board meetings and sitting here and discussing whatever we're discussing. And it's a mix of family and work and maybe volunteer things and other factors. I mean, COVID is a huge factor on all of us because I believe mental health is the highest issue of this generation and this time, and it comes to play a factor into all of this too. So I would like everybody to crumple your plate up and throw it in the middle.
Does that mean we don't have to be responsible for anything?
I'll clean up later. But I would like you.
Okay, but it looks really weird in the middle of my hotel room.
Okay, you can throw it in your hotel room. But I'd like you to think about some of the things, when you look at all those things you have, I mean, some things are higher priority than others, but we all have to try and make them fit in our lives. Some of them we can't get rid of. So this was an exercise just so you could admit to yourself, you do have a lot on your plate. And it is okay sometimes to feel stressed. And it is okay to say, I'm not going to do it right now. So I just wanted you to all come to the realization that, and we all are in the same boat, right? So when we're dealing with stuff here, remember everybody's plate is full, that we're not alone in what we're dealing with. So Donna, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for this exercise because I know for myself when I wrote everything down, my first thought was I'm overwhelmed. There's so much, but the fact that you took it the next level and had us talk to somebody, and with Naveed and I talking, and the different perspectives for Naveed to talk about, looking at it and prioritizing and things like that, it really taught me that you can't just look at your list. That it's when you talk to somebody else and get that different perspective on it, you see it with new eyes. So to me, that was an extremely important part of the exercise, and I really appreciated getting the insight of Naveed on that, and I'm sure everybody else around the table probably did in their discussions too.
Thank you for that, Don. Does anybody else have any insights they'd like to share? Sorry, I didn't hear that. Loaning? Cloning? Well, when you come up with the patent for that.
We can put it on the trustee goals for the next 4 years.
Okay. Part of our trustee goals. Okay, I'll write it in. We'll ask the director if he can have staff work on cloning.
Because that's not a science movie gone wrong.
Okay, thank you so very much, everybody, for participating in that part of the exercise. If you could just go to the next. So this was just to have a break. So when you're looking at the day, what apparently they said, what do you see in the sky here? The Big Dipper? See, I didn't see that. I only saw stars. So thank you for pointing that out. And so I think that comes back to what Donna said, that sometimes different perspectives are good because people see different things than what we do, right? So by somebody pointing something out, maybe it might make our load a little easier. The next. Sorry,
what was the other image? I'm just reading
the elephant. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so I believe there is an elephant somewhere in that picture, but I never saw it.
In the sky?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's saying sometimes what you don't see, so something might be there, but you don't always see it. Okay, so this was, I'm not sure how to say the actual words, but crisis consists of two separate characters. The we, do you know how to say it?
危机
The G symbol,
crisis.
thank you, conveys the notion of danger, and the G symbol means incipient moment, crucial point. So that is what crisis is made up of, those two components. So then we had a bit of discussion, and I'm not going to ask us to do it tonight, but I can share this with everybody if they want it, about the impacts and opportunities. So sometimes there's an impact to something happening, and sometimes you have to flip it around and make it an opportunity. So if something's happening, you need to acknowledge sometimes there's fear or there's grieving, or sometimes we responded the best as we could to a constantly changing situation. So, but the opportunities are the other side, right? And so, such as recognition of a dual pandemic, a health, and in a lot of boards down there, they have a racial equity crisis. So, so this was just so that you could try and, when you're looking at something, try and realize there's two sides, the impact and the potential opportunity. And sometimes you need someone to help you find that opportunity, right? You can't do it alone. The next one. So this was about a storm that happened, and there was a rowboat out on the water, and it got totally soaked, whereas this person was out sailing and they had pulled in. But the same thing, but both people got to see the rainbow. It's just, it affected the storm affected them in different ways. And I'm minimalizing, obviously, because I'm trying to keep it short. So I've got one more activity, and we're going to change who we pair with, because the directions are, we're all going to stand up. You put your hand up, and then you're going to go to somebody who has their hand up. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at, the acronym is PIES. How you feel physically, how you feel intellectually, how you feel emotionally, and how you feel spiritually. And we're going to share how you feel with whoever you go to with their hand up. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up, and once you're ready to share, put your hand up and somebody will come to you. And once we've changed twice, then we'll stop and it's just an opportunity to reconnect again and talk about how we're feeling. I'll look after it.
No, 4 categories, 3 people.
Pies.
You say all 4 of them.
Oh, 3 different people. Got it.
Oh, you know where to go? You go to somebody who has their hand up.
Made eye contact. You're like you're mine now. All right. I'm saying how I feel. Okay. All right.
Physically feel.
I think I'm sure.
Spiritual? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, what's happening?
So, and yeah, I'm supposed to doctor. Anyway, so yeah, I've just done all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I feel your pain.
yes. Intellectually, I feel strong.
Yeah, and I haven't yet. Yeah.
Tired, but
Yeah.
emotionally, I'm something you're doing maybe. So there's a lot of that. So emotionally, it's like road speech and trying to practice it from right? And spiritually, I am spiritual.
Yeah.
It's not really what you should do. In order to remain for you. Yeah.
For you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
No, we probably did it wrong.
You know what? But it worked.
It worked for us.
So, all right. All right.
As long as we're doing that.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Actually, I came up today with kids that are. But these aren't meeting the high. But it, no, it's okay.
So physical.
Well, I was just saying to Tanya too that physically I feel okay, but this getting older thing sucks. It really does. Oh, wow. Great.
I don't feel like I look
No, you do. I wouldn't have figured 60, so 60. So that should be a little better. But my dad was 55. And 50, I think 50, it's downhill.
Yeah.
It's like,
Literally.
what, how did this happen? What, and I just went,
And you see, because you catch a glimpse of yourself, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that again.
no. I was thinking about, like remodeling a bathroom. And everyone's like, you need to get one of those, like, showers with all of the. No, I don't want to see it. Yes, I don't want to see.
Because I don't want to see
and everything. Forget it. So yeah, that's but what I guess we have to accept and be. But yeah.
I fight against everything,
So intellectually, I feel strong. I think tired. A lot of thinking all the time. That's what I do, right? So every year at this point in the year, this year there's been even more learning for everything, right? So
learning we never thought we'd ever get, and learning we didn't want.
Right, and so it just makes it more what it is. It's turning it off sometimes at night is the problem, right? Or I'll fall asleep and then I wake up at 4 in the morning and I have a brilliant idea, right? So,
and then at 7 o'clock you're like,
it wasn't brilliant and now I gotta go. And I could have been sleeping, right? Anyway, so that's it. How about you? Oh, no, yeah. Emotionally, my son's getting married June 29th. Yes, so emotionally I am heightened. This is a good thing. I'm very happy. I really like her. She's wonderful and she gets along with the family, and my daughter and her really get along, which is so important. For me, that was one of the most important, right? Because my kids are close, but they tend to be close, then that could separate them a bit. So I'm really happy that way, but I'm an emotional person. So I've written a speech and I'm trying to practice the speech because I don't want to cry. But it is what it is. I know. Yeah, so it just makes you think about like it all happened quickly, right? I never thought that he would sit down to her and like he didn't have to, wasn't like someone who had a ton of girlfriends, right? And then he just said, 5 years later, right? So, so anyway, and spiritually, good. I challenge some things, right? Like I find, and that's been my
because life is
right? And those and you want to, and sometimes you reflect on things that you believe and have believed, and then you see, and then I don't know, I customize my spirituality somewhat.
That's the sign of someone who's truly invested in their spirituality. Because it's not just believing the tenets of a faith without giving it any what do you really want?
Right, and then how does it really inform you?
Like how are you being intentional? So
you're up.
Physically, I want to see yesterday TikTok. Higher weight. But then I went to the gym again this morning for yoga.
Tuesday night.
I saw Terry, and he very good. It was wonderful. So it's nice to see Terry. Yes. I asked her if she would come with us on the board, and she said no. And I didn't blame her. Intellectually, I'm feeling good. Thanks for chatting. Spiritually,
Thank you very much for indulging in that exercise. Once again, I think it can help us connect to each other, but also helps us understand where we are all coming from on different levels. And part of that is we all function on different levels, correct? So I don't know if there was much left on the... So you can go through this at by yourself, because there are things about what you've heard about well-being. There may be things that there are ouch moments that you have that you need to maybe reflect more on and then refocus on in a different way. So the last thing for this is there is a video I would suggest you might watch. It's called The Third Side. And there's a link to it in this PowerPoint. And what it is there are two sides to every story, yours and mine, say. But there's the whole community in the middle. They have a different perspective. So when we're looking at things, this gentleman, it's a TED Talk, he talks about the third side and how we need to take that into account when we're looking at things. And sometimes this gentleman, he has helped negotiate through wars and that kind of stuff. He said, and sometimes taking that third side into account will actually help you navigate that difficult path. So anyways, thank you very much, everybody, for participating. Hopefully it will allow everyone some time for reflection, and it'll give you some additional reading or viewing in the future if you feel like. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. There is a speakers list, so I will go to Amy first. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I was wondering, the slide deck wasn't linked here. Could you possibly email it to us so that we have it?
I will.
Or put it in the folder for tonight's committee.
Thanks.
Jean, go ahead.
She has to learn how to put it in the folder.
I know how to do
it. Just a quick question. I was madly writing down. That is a video of the third side that we should go to see, and is on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a link in the PowerPoint,
but
I'll send it out separately.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other speakers, Kelly, thank you so much for this evening. And it's nice that when we can be interactive, so much appreciated. And in less than 90 minutes. So that does not mean someone else gets her extra time. Okay, so moving along, we are up to 4.1.2, which is the governance document review committee. And Amy, as the chair of the committee, the floor is yours.
Thank you. If you follow the link that to the document that Jean sent out right before we started tonight, you'll find that there's a link there to the trustee code of conduct. And we have 3 suggestions from legal counsel regarding changes or potential changes to the policy. The first change is in the second paragraph of the policy. We had written, trustees are elected to represent students, parents, and stakeholders. And the legal counsel recommended that we change that to trustees are elected to make decisions in the best interests of the HDSB. That wasn't a legal requirement, but she felt it was a better descriptor to put in the code of conduct. I think the reason why we had in there represent students, parents, and stakeholders is because we used the OPSPA template, and OPSPA describes it in that way. And I think the reason why OPSPA describes it in that way is because the public reviewing this code of conduct will want to see themselves reflected in our role. And they will want to see that the code of conduct is something that's accessible to them. So we have the option to go with what we had before or to take the suggestion from legal counsel. And so if there is anyone who would like to speak to that, please let me know. And then we can have some conversation. I guess we need to know which way to go.
Yeah, so I will look to the speakers list. Carol, then Shinyi.
I agree, Amy. I think anything that we have in our code of conduct should be reflective of the legislation because we are a creature of that legislation. I see that the current wording is reflected there. However, the explanation that we received from legal counsel was not really fulsome in explaining why the change was important. I'm just looking at what we received, and it just says that it's not legally correct. but it's not in any way referenced. And so at this point, unless there's new information coming in the future, I think we could revisit it. But at this point, I'd feel more comfortable leaving the wording as is.
Thank you.
Okay. If this is a
Go ahead, Shinyi.
Yeah, if this is not a legal requirement, and I recommend we use the previous version. The reason is this legal counsel suggestion the best interest of HDSB. So we need to know what is the best interest of HDSB. So all the trustees, we have a collective efforts to make decisions. So this decision, every trustee must respect the team's decision. So that's the best interest of HDSB. So before we make a decision, before making the decision, so we can hardly define what is the best interest of HDSB. So as the elected trustee, we are listening to the community and the different stakeholders, and we bring their voice into the boardroom for discussion, and we work together, make the decision. Those decisions are the best interest of the school board. That's why I believe the previous version is reflect what our authority and what is our duty as a trustee. Thank you.
Thanks, Shinyi. And Naveed had his hand up next. Are you still there, Naveed?
Yes, I am. Okay, so in my opinion, I think we should leave the existing definitions, and if it is not needed, we should not change it, because just one sentence like trustees will make the decisions based on the best interest of HDSB. Like it's a strange statement to me. Maybe I can get some help from all of you in understanding like what is the best interest of HDSB. Is it in contrast with the stakeholders? Like, because it's already mentioned that trustees' responsibilities and roles align with the community, and they are the conduit or the sounding board of the community. But that's all their role is, right? And once a decision is made by the board, individual trustees stick with the team. They don't have much say. So I don't understand why we are trying to fix something that is not even broken. Why focus on this and waste our energy when there are actually pressing needs, and there are things that are broken that need fixing. And I can talk about them, but maybe this is not the time. But trying to fix something that is not even broken, it amazes me. Like, why are we even talking about this? Why changing this?
Thanks, Naveed.
And thank you. Am I done?
Yeah, I think you got your point across. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Jean, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. To Carol's point, I think you said that the explanation was that it's not legal. Is that the term? Okay. So why wouldn't we just take the time to find out why it isn't legal before we make a decision on this? Are we required to make a decision tonight?
Okay, so I think you're taking what Carol said out of context. Okay. What Jillian said in her thing was that what we had written wasn't exactly worded in a legal way. It wasn't that it was illegal. It was just that it wasn't, if she was going to point to legislation, it wasn't what you would see in legislation. But that doesn't make it wrong. Because when we ask for a legal opinion or a legal review of the document, what we actually want to see is, have we contravened any legislation or omitted any legislation? And instead, she just gave us an opinion that she preferred the wording to make decisions in the best interest of the HDSB instead of to represent students, parents, and stakeholders. She just preferred that wording. One wasn't more legal than the other. She just preferred the wording.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Joanna.
Yeah, as I'm listening to both kind of sides of the query, I think I'm understanding why our legal counsel pointed that out. But perhaps this is not ultimately the best solution either, because just as you can challenge what does it mean in the best interest of, you can also challenge what does it mean to represent students, parents, and stakeholders. And ultimately, where does that representation lead to? Like, what's the end result? So perhaps it's a merging of those two concepts, right? Representing and making decisions that are in the best interest, and maybe the best interest needs a little bit more elaboration.
What I would propose is that we do know that the government is going to be making changes to the code of conduct this year. And so what I would propose that we do is leave it the way we have it in this case until we see what's going to come down from the government, because we do have to have this approved by May 15th. That's the statutory deadline. If we start making changes, knowing that there are more changes coming, we may be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So I would suggest staying with what we have and then looking to whatever legislation comes down and seeing what further changes might be needed.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Can you just confirm for me the wording to represent students' parents? Is that in the OPSPA Code of Conduct, or is that in our previous version from some other year?
It's in our previous version, which was based on OPSPA.
So that wording currently exists in the OPSPA Code of Conduct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to defer to Jean, because she had because she had a point to make. Go ahead.
Just a point of clarification around our legal counsel's feedback on it being legally correct. The trustees are elected to represent parents, students, and stakeholders, full stop. Doesn't encompass all of the duties that trustees are obligated to fulfill under the Education Act. So perhaps the suggestion that there is more to it and the alternate wording is intended to encompass all of the duties listed under 218.1. That may be a consideration for trustees in looking at how alternate wording might be presented, or where else you might.
The very next sentence says this relationship with the electorate is governed by the Municipal Elections Act and the Education Act. So with that following sentence, it is all encompassing and actually more definitive than saying to make decisions in the best interest of the HDSB, because it's very subjective. Everyone's going to think that the decision they're making is in the best interest of the HDSB. So it's like, okay, vote with your conscience, because your conscience is telling you the best way to vote. That's it's not even a concept. You can't conceptualize that because everyone has a different perspective. So leaving it the way it is for now and looking down the road when we get the new legislation will tell us if we have to make changes or not. I don't think we were thinking that this was all encompassing in that one sentence, but the following sentence makes it all encompassing.
Jean Gray.
Yeah, so just to be clear, if in fact, as you said, that the government's coming out with perhaps a corrected version or a different version, I'm not sure that this exercise tonight of going through all these suggested changes that we've identified, we should be doing this, given that you've just stated that perhaps we should just leave it as it is because the government's going to come. So maybe we should just put this all on the back burner till after the document comes out. I'm just thinking that would be wise counsel, but I'm getting the head shake here, so I'm missing the point probably.
There are only 3 recommended changes to the policy. The other 2 actually need to be made because If we don't make them, then we're not aligned with the legislation. This first one doesn't make us fall out of alignment with legislation, but the second two would.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
At least the second one would. The third one is just basically reducing a laundry list. So if we move on to the second one, you'll see the addition of the sentence, "This policy does not apply to student trustees, however, it should be used as a guide," because they are not liable to the code of conduct. And that was brought to us by legal counsel, that we couldn't say student trustees were held to account to this code of conduct. So we had to put that sentence in there to make it clear. And then the other change, if you go down to, where is it? Where is it? Oh, yeah. Top of the second page, there was a laundry list of acts and legislation. And the legal counsel suggested that we should just say any other relevant legislation, HDSB policies and procedures, because we can never get a comprehensive list of all the legislation. So by sampling a few of them, we're not presenting a complete list. And I quite agree with her on that, because I've often said, listing all of these things out just makes it all the more apparent when we've left something out by mistake. So this third change was a rather simple head nod. It was only the first one where we had question about whether or not to go ahead, because it doesn't really change anything one way or the other. So if everyone's in agreement with that, then we can bring this to board with the two changes.
Joanna is on the speakers list.
Yeah, just so we have common knowledge and understanding, Amy, and maybe not, you don't have to do this now, but if you could find reference to this legislation that or the notice or whatever you're referring to, that there is indication that the legislation will be changed, if you could share that.
I believe it was in one of Jennifer McIntyre from OPSPA's emails. She sends out weekly from the legislative emails, saying that there was going to be changes to the code of conduct coming down.
Okay.
I think it was within the last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And at the same time, they've said that all of the boards have to submit an updated one by the 15th of May. So we're updating, but we're not doing a wholesale update, because we don't know what they're going to come down with. So we're going to make a gentle, soft landing for the first one, correct a couple of things that were oops, and then leave the rest of it until later.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And sorry, and just to everyone's just for everyone else's benefit, this was the last of the polyproc documents we had. So what led us to this point today was that this document was a policy and a governance procedure in one. It was the last one of its kind. So when the committee originally started out, it was to break out the two into a policy and a separate GP. And then it also turns out there's a May 15th deadline. So if anything, what we would be doing by approving this is to end all polyprocs, and whatever changes need to happen due to new legislation that's coming later this year, then those changes can then be implemented. But if we can get this through, at least this will be compliant with our other policies and procedures. Go ahead, Curtis.
Thanks. Just for reference, Joanna, it's in the Better Schools and Student Outcomes Act. That's where you can find the proposed changes. Last I heard it's in the second reading, so it's still not official yet.
Are there any other questions? Or is anyone, I guess I I don't know if I should make a motion to accept the 2 changes and to defer the 3rd change and to bring this as it is to board next week.
I'll jump in. There's no one on the speakers list. So I was just looking at our existing polyproc, and the wording that's in our existing policy is trustees are elected to represent students, parents, and stakeholders, period. This relationship with the electorate is governed by the Municipal Elections Act and Education Act. So seeing as how we have to push this through for May 15th, and that is existing language, and legal has never had an issue with our existing language, I think I would recommend to leave the existing language for the first change. And then once the new legislation comes in, we could relook at everything to ensure that we're compliant with new legislation.
Thank you for that.
Jean?
Yes, thank you. I just wonder if we bring this forward at our next board meeting, and then in a month from now, or whenever the government comes through with their changes, we then are forced to relook at this policy and then bring it back again with further changes. Why wouldn't we just kind of sit with this? We're ready to go. And why wouldn't we wait to see what comes up from the government, then adjust and move forward only once, not twice within a short period of time? Just a thought.
There's legislation that says we must renew our trustee code of conduct by the 15th of May. We have no choice.
Okay.
So at least we have accomplished a lot in the work that we've done by teasing out the elements that were procedural and creating a governance procedure, and by simplifying some of the language that had already come to the committee of the whole at a previous time. You know, there's been a considerable amount of work done, and I think it's been good work. We might have to do more work on it after the new legislation comes up, but we don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know when that's going to happen, and we don't know what the terms of reference are going to be for what they come out with. So.
Okay, so just to check on time, we're still going to go over the procedure?
There are no changes to the procedure.
Okay, all right. So, Amy, we're done?
I'm done. I just wanted to know if there was a will for a motion to bring the 2 changes forward, or if everyone is just happy with it coming forward. I don't know how formal we want to be. Do we want a motion or not? Because I'm happy to do either.
So if I can capture it, option A is to leave the first highlight, or just, can you go over what the options are? Because I'm not clear.
The option is, we only have one option. The first one is going to stay the way it is. The second one and the third one are going to go forward. And
there are 3 changes.
Yes.
So the first change.
We're not making it. We're
So
keeping
we've
it as it is.
So we're in agreement. We're keeping it as it is. Okay, great. The second change which is to add the line.
We're making the change.
We're all okay with this. Okay. And then the third change, which is on page 2, we're all okay with removing all of the different names of the acts. Okay, there we go.
So do you want a motion? That was the question.
I don't think we need a motion. Like, are we, okay, who is not okay with bringing it to board next week? Okay, so we're okay.
Okay.
You can bring it to board next week for its
Okay.
first appearance for policy.
Second appearance. It has already appeared in one board package. It's coming now after its legal review.
Okay,
So we will be voting next week.
Yep, thank you for that. Okay, so it will appear for decision on the May 3rd board meeting. All right. Next on the agenda, we have, where are we? Oh, yes, we have an update from the Inspire Awards Ad Hoc Committee. Jean, as the chair, I'm not sure if Naveed will be joining you as well. The floor is yours. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. This will take much less than 15 minutes, just because I think there's so many of you that are on the committee. You kind of already know what's going on. I provided for you a summary. It is in the folder. It's titled, Inspire Award Ad Hoc Committee Report, April 26, Summary of Recommendations and Follow-Up after March 22 and April 20 meetings. We have another meeting that I have in consult with Naveed yet to schedule. However, we have made great progress. I just want to remind everybody why we set this ad hoc committee in motion. It was 2 points. We wanted to ensure that all aspects of the Inspire Award program realize the objective of the program while operating in a manageable way. And that's part of we are victims of our success. We have so many nominations anymore that it's causing us to really look at how we're doing business and how we can keep the integrity and the branding of this very prestigious award within our board, but also manage the large volume of nominations that we're receiving. The second reason we formed the committee was that the ad hoc committee would meet as required to fulfill the purpose of the committee and to address all the items for review as brought forward by the members of the Board of Trustees. And I had several trustees, as maybe Naveed did as well, identify, hey, this is an area that you might want to look at, or we should do this, and so on and so forth. So in this chart that is in your folder for today, you'll see really the date of the first meeting and then followed by the date of the second meeting, some of the things that we've been talking about. And I want to say that the conversations have been very robust. We've been very fortunate to have pretty much everybody in attendance, including our 2 student trustees, and we were honored last meeting of having Tina join us as well. Last meeting, it was to sort of review all that had been accomplished as a result of the first meeting, and Susan Thrasher was largely responsible for all of our movement forward. But then the second part of our last meeting was to really dig in to the 4 criteria that we have that make up our current Inspire Award and look at how we might change it. And there was some great discussions. You can see that a lot of the last meeting records that to be discussed further, and so on and so forth. When we dug into the Inspire Award criteria, and Tanya gave a very interesting reflection on how she evaluated the Inspire Awards. As you know, we have 4 categories, and you are to rank 1 through 3. And Tanya takes that overall global look at the nomination material received and makes a decision. Is it a pass or is it a fail? In other words, is it a 9? Or is it a less than 9, meaning that the person hasn't really achieved all that we thought they should achieve? So then we kind of funneled down into what does it mean to inspire somebody? If we're giving this award out, what does it mean to inspire? And then we talked about some of the definitions. And I've spent some time looking up definitions for inspire, and I think that's going to be the genesis of our third meeting, hopefully our third and final meeting, as we look at what does it mean to inspire someone, how do we measure that someone deserves an Inspire Award and that they have inspired someone, and what are our standards to achieve this award. Currently, right now, our standard was to score 9 out of 12. If we look at scoring this differently, more holistically, and looking at what the material is that we've received, the nominees' the nomination information, if we're looking at that, how are we going to measure, how are we going to be sure that we've got consensus among us that what you believe is an inspiring nomination is the same as what Tanya or Kelly or Donna or Amy or Xing Ying Yi, what is it going to be that's going to help us to make that determination? that's the genesis of our third meeting. I want to just highlight a few things that were interesting. We talked about, could trustees nominate someone? We decided not. Could student trustees nominate someone? And we had a very good, fulsome discussion by both our student trustees on the value of them being able to nominate someone. Then we looked at, could student trustees be nominated? And we decided not. But funny enough, we have a student trustee that's going to be our student trustee next year that will be considered for this award, right? So we are all with these kinds of decisions to make, and having to make those decisions that is going to be representative of what we believe as a full group. So in conclusion, we've discussed lots of different things. I think we've taken this whole award into its next level. I've been with this award since the beginning, and I've seen growth, and there have been changes over the years. But this is going to be transformative change if we look at that sort of more global evaluation of a nomination set of information, and measuring that will be our really big challenge. And that's, I think, the genesis of our final meeting, hopefully our final meeting, yet to be established, soon to come into your box. When can we next meet? And if you have any questions, I'm happy to, Naveed and I are happy to take those questions on. But I've just kind of laid it out. This is where we're at, this is where we're going, and we need further discussion on so much. But we will be, obviously, as a committee, bringing a report back to the trustees, and we must recognize that our committee report will require, a makeover, if you would, before September. So there's going to be work that's going to have to take place. We currently have posters, for example, in our schools, and if they have to be changed in any way, or our website has to be changed, or our form work has to be changed, all of that can be done. And I'm just so thankful, and I want to say it once again, Susan Thrasher is just an amazing person to work with and to help guide this process. And she's so insightful. She sent me a couple of emails today that really, brought new information to the table, and it's been very helpful in guiding us through. So that's all I have to say. And if anybody has any questions, happy to respond. Thank you.
All right, I will look to our speakers list. Carol, you're up.
I'm just wondering if you and Naveed, Jean, have you done a survey, or has Susan looked at what the recognition opportunities are throughout the board? I know a lot of schools will have their own suite of awards that recognize citizenship and various contributions to the school community. I don't know if that exists for staff. And I'm wondering, are we thinking of the Inspire Awards as sort of filling a gap that was noticed at some point, in which, there's maybe more recognition, opportunities for recognition for students and less so for staff? Or what was the genesis of the Inspire Award, and what else, as I said originally, is out there in terms of the whole suite of recognition throughout the board?
Yeah, I think that all schools have a system in place to recognize students, and maybe not staff, maybe not community members. I think that this was an overarching award that we wanted to have in place. And there was a history actually behind this, and maybe some of the trustees in the table here that have been at the table longer would have that history. But there is a history where there was an award system, and then it fell to the side for a bit, and then it was resurrected about 7 or 8 years ago. But I think the concept here is to recognize anyone who has contributed and inspired others in a positive way to help with student achievement. It could be anyone from the school bus driver to the crossing guard to the committee members that come in and volunteer at breakfasts. We had that before, to students, to staff members, to anyone that has had that impact on others. I think there's a speakers list, so I'll let others speak to that. Thank you.
Yeah, Amy?
In the early 2000s, there was an awards program. The awards weren't specifically run by the trustees, though, I don't think. And there was also SEAC awards, special education awards, handed out by the SEAC members. And they both kind of dissolved. Part of the problem was that the awards sometimes took upwards of an hour at the beginning of a board meeting. And so when the idea to have this award, the Inspire Award, come around, the agreement was that this would never take more than 15 minutes of a board meeting. And as our awards get bigger and bigger, that's something we have to be very cognizant of, because our board meetings are business meetings. And while it is absolutely a pleasure to be part of making someone's day or making someone feel good about their contribution, we still have to get through the meat of the meeting. And that can make for a very late night. And the later the evenings go, the more difficult it is for people who have to get up early the next morning. So one of the biggest considerations when we came out with the new Inspire Award was that 15 minutes once a month at the beginning of a meeting, and no more than that. Another consideration was that, as Jean said, making sure that everybody has a chance to do the nominating. Because I don't even know how the nominations for the previous awards were happening, but they certainly weren't well advertised. It wasn't like the program we have where at the beginning of each month that we say at the board table to the whole public, this is your opportunity to nominate someone. It did seem for a bit of a time in the early 2000s when they had the previous iteration that some schools nominated frequently and other schools that you never heard a peep. And I think part of that was the marketing of it and not having the word out about it. So the way that this has been, this has really been maintained by trustees with the help of Susan Thrasher. But this has been something that has been within our bailiwick from the get-go. And it's really kind of nice because, as we just said in our code of conduct, we represent our communities. So it's a really nice way of saying thank you to people.
Kelly?
Thank you. I just wanted to fill in a little bit more of the background. The awards previously were typically given to people who had already done an achievement of some type. So they had won something at like a music fest or at skills competitions or different things like that. So that's how they would come to the attention of the director's office, and then, or a teacher of the year award for the Prime Minister's Awards or something. So it would come to there, and then they would do the presentation. After a while, there was quite a few, and again, people felt that it was taking too much time at the board. So they set aside a day every few months where they would just do awards. But then that became quite onerous and it got forgotten. So when we restarted the program as trustees, we wanted just to try and make it an event that anybody who was supporting students could be recognized, and anybody could basically nominate them. So we wanted to be an inclusive type of, you didn't have to win an award. It could be you just were a great kid in the class and you helped your friends and that kind of thing. So that was the intent. And so that's why I think it's so important, because we're recognizing all those who are amazing people that are in the system. And to me, it's the best part of the board meeting.
All right. Jean, would you like to add anything, or we look forward to your next report?
Yes, I think the next steps for us is for Naveed and I to identify a meeting date and time, probably a couple weeks out from now, and for everyone, all trustees, to contribute in any way they wish in helping us to define what it truly means to inspire others. I think that's going to be something that we need to really delve into, keeping it at a high level. And anything that you want to contribute, that's great. As I said, the committee is a large committee. There's 8 of us working on this. 2 student trustees, Susan Thrasher, and 5 others trustees. So it's been very well attended, and we've enjoyed the dialogue so far. And the differences of opinion, it's been very enlightening. And my aha moment at the last meeting was listening to the way Tanya does her evaluations. It was very enlightening. Thank you.
My motto is keep it simple. All right. Thank you, Jean, for that report or update. Next up on the agenda, we have Joanna, who would like to speak to a motion that she is proposing. Joanna, you have 15 minutes. Can you turn your mic on?
Yes, sorry. This was a late addition, but for anybody concerned about that, I will just confirm that this is the exact version that you would have seen well in advance of our last board meeting of April 19. The wording is exactly as it was. I've brought it here because there was some conversation at the board meeting about how do we enhance this to make sure that we are attaining the goals that we are hoping to attain. And so I've brought it here so that everybody could have one final look, hopefully, and provide your feedback. And so I'll take you through the changes because I would like to hear your perspective, and I would like to finalize this as I would like to bring it back to the next board meeting of May 3rd. Initially, the title was Multi-Year Plan Ad Hoc Committee, and there was a challenge to that, or a question posed about that with respect to, trustees are not responsible for the implementation of the multi-year plan. And we did actually say that we would specifically focus on foundational elements. So I had renamed it to Foundational Elements Ad Hoc Committee. And I see that there's a suggestion to further qualify it as multi-year plan foundational elements ad hoc committee. So if that is an edit that is strongly supported and endorsed by everybody, I'm happy to make it. I don't think it makes a terrible difference, but I'm happy to indulge and make that change. So can we maybe how do we do this? By show of hands?
So I think Amy just put her hand up. So Amy, are you going to speak to that?
All right.
Yeah, I think the report itself refers to the fact that the foundational elements belong to the multi-year plan. In fact, it does. I'm reading it right now. The foundational elements of the HDSB's multi-year plan include. So I don't think you need to change the name of it because it's in the report. And it mentions the multi-year plan in more than one place. So I think it's pretty straightforward, and it just makes it a big mouthful if you add 3 more words at the beginning.
So is everybody okay with that?
So I'm the one who proposed MYP, only because if you're Joe Public and you're reading something and then creating a committee, it's good to know where the foundational elements are coming from. So I do realize the report speaks to the multi-year plan, but I think for clarity and for someone who might read this in the future, it's, to me, calling a committee MYP, foundational elements, it's very clear where those elements derive from. But I will go with whatever the majority wants. I'm not going to make a big stink about that.
Okay, so I guess one other possible edit would be in the first recommendation is to embed that in there to make it more specific.
Oh, and sorry, and the other reason was it to tie it, because I was under the impression that you wanted to tie it or complement it to Curtis's motion from last week. And Curtis's motion specifically referred to multi-year plan. So that was my thought behind that as well, to fully see the link and the tie-in to include MYP in there.
Yes, I did forget to add that to my preamble, but you all know that this is to complement the report and the motion that was brought forward by Curtis. So
Can I follow up? Yeah, I'm good with putting MYP in front. It's a mouthful, but I understand why Tanya wants it there.
So for clarity, I'm going to have to spell it out, right? Multi-year plan. Okay. And then maybe later on, it'll be MYP foundational. Okay. Thank you. Moving on. There was a question around the word hour. So in that first recommendation, paragraph 1, line 3, to seek to enhance our capacity. Any thoughts on what would make a better, more clear substitution here? Because in the hour we're talking, so we're looking here at a joint venture, right? The ad hoc committee would comprise of members of the senior admin team and board of trustees. So the hour, that's our collective.
So can we just freewheel here instead of going through the speakers list? Can we do that?
Absolutely.
So could we have it read to seek to enhance the capacity of the members of the Board of Trustees and senior admin team? And that just explains who our is.
Of the
members of the senior admin team and Board of Trustees. I think Board of Trustees should come first, but that's just me.
I'll spell that out. Of the board of, yeah. Let's just typing it in. Okay. Thank you.
Joanna, to help you out, I'll type.
Thank you.
And you can continue speaking.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Tanya. Okay, moving on. Okay, there's a suggestion now because timelines have changed again. And it is good process to bring things first to the committee of the whole. So rather than saying, so this is paragraph 2 now at the end, with a proposed strategy to be delivered no later than, we said the last board meeting, we're going to say the last committee of the whole meeting of this school year, so that we can have the discussions and then bring the final decision to the board meeting. Is everybody in agreement with that?
I am.
Yep. Okay. So let's do that. Okay. Now moving into background, I updated it because at the time I wrote this, director's report was a draft. It is now final. And I basically referenced exactly, what the recommendations of that report are. So that's in there now under the background. Okay. Moving on to the next comment. Okay, so under rationale, second paragraph under all the itemized list, given the shared responsibility. Okay, when you look in there, this strategy needs to be specific to the foundational elements. There's a proposal to say we'll focus on. Any opposition to that? Seeing none, okay, we'll substitute that wording. And the reason why I have should take into consideration professional development initiatives is that we do have the Trustee Professional Development Planning Steering Committee, which will be designing its own initiatives for trustees. And so I think it needs to be a little bit more relaxed in that definitely this ad hoc committee should be looking to see what the other committee is doing and incorporating as permitted.
So to your point, you wish to have it remain as should take. It's just been changed to will take as you've been speaking. So.
I was going to stay with should take, but are we okay with that? Because will take makes it like they have to, right? And should take, it's we want to kind of, we want to work together and see what makes sense. Okay. And then the final edit, that was yours, Jean. Which will okay, I see what you mean, yes. Yeah, so instead of to allow for a more comprehensive initiative, it's suggested to say which will result in a more comprehensive initiative. Yes, and I'm happy with that because that is our goal. Okay. Tanya, I don't know what that ADD there is for.
Comment is on the right side. So it's to add a sentence to reflect the new language that was added, which speaks to addressing challenges currently facing the HDSB. So it was, because that language was added to the first part of the motion.
Yes,
so
I see that, yes.
So my add was to, because throughout the report, we talked about the training, the professional development as it related to the foundational elements, but there was no sentence that spoke to the addressing the challenges facing the board.
So because we have that in our recommendation, and it jives nicely with the director's recommendation, it makes sense that we add it here as well. Any opposition to that? I'm not seeing.
I just would like to say that when we say and address challenges currently facing the HDSB, there are so many challenges of facing the HDSB, the financial, the post-COVID, mental health,
Yes.
There's all of these things. So very, very large. I wish that to just make it public so that people will understand this is a large.
This is a large undertaking.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why I think that having a joint ad hoc committee will be able to, the members of that committee will be able to bring in all the perspectives and look at everything that, we need to consider, right? And then how do we address those? Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay.
How is it that you want to add in the challenges piece there, Tanya? Because I'm reading the paragraph, wondering where it fits.
So, and maybe it could just be a one-liner to say that the committee will also look at some of the challenges facing the HDSB, for example, financial or something to that effect. Because when it was added to the motion, which was great, and thank you for that, that the addition in the motion, there was no reflection of it in the report. So maybe we don't have to agree on a sentence right now. I can give it some thought and put the suggestion forward by noon tomorrow. I'm not looking for a paragraph. Something really simple that would speak to that part of the motion.
Perhaps that goes at the beginning, given the shared responsibility and considerable breadth of the multi-year plan and the challenges facing HDSB. I mean, it's also public education. So maybe somewhere there.
How about given the shared responsibility and considerable breadth of the HDSB's multi-year plan and its foundational elements, accompanied by the challenges currently facing the HDSB, the proposed ad hoc committee is intended to develop a strategy, blah, blah, blah.
That sounds really good. I couldn't even find where you were reading that. What Oh, I got it now, right.
Yeah.
Two people.
That's great. So is everybody happy with that change, and does that reflect?
Yeah, the only comment I have is, I know you've attached an Appendix A to the report, which is the terms of reference. But I don't think at this point you need to create a terms of reference, because the way you've already written the motion sets out the terms of reference as far as the makeup of the committee, when they need to reply by.
I just thought this gives a little bit more detail because it talks about the responsibilities as well. Is there any harm in having that?
I really like it because it sets forth quite transparently to the public what the ad hoc committee's responsibility is, and that is something that's important.
Okay, so if we are going to keep it, then there is a change that needs to be made, and that is under membership. It has membership will be confirmed by the chair by April 26th.
Yes.
So when you say chair, do you mean Margot or chair of this committee? And
Right.
if so, then who's going to be the chair of this committee?
Yeah.
So clarification on the definition of chair and the revision of the date, April 26th.
Right, so this would require expression of interest by trustees to the chair. So we need to agree on a date that makes sense and a process for how that would be done. And the chair needs to have a process for how she will select the 5 trustees. And then, of course, the director, it's up to him to decide who the senior team members will be on the ad hoc committee. So what, given the timelines we've proposed here, what are we looking at? Are we thinking May 1st? We'd like to get on with this as soon as possible, right?
This is going to come to board on May 3rd.
May
So
3rd,
you can
right.
only do it after May 3rd.
May 5th?
And
Is that too soon? Given
it's
that
whatever
we
you
talked about
proposed.
What's the general consensus around the table? Do we want to put a date shortly after the meeting? Do people need more time? I think we've talked about this enough that this is not a surprise to anybody. So,
Curtis, when do you think, if this motion passes and a committee is formed, how soon do you think you'd be able to recruit 4 staff members to be on this ad hoc committee?
I'd say immediately.
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 He didn't have his mic on. So if this motion passes on May 3rd, yeah, maybe by May 5th,
Okay.
you can.
So the chair can announce that she's open to receiving expressions of interest by noon, May 5th. So the Friday, noon Friday. Everybody okay with that?
If I were Margot, I'd be fine with that. May 5th, yeah.
Okay. And my colleagues, all good? Okay, thank you very much. I believe those.
I just want to thank
yeah?
you, Joanna, for all of your work in shepherding this all the way through. It's been a long little journey, but little steps along the way. But you've done a tremendous amount of work to get us to where this is looking so very complete. And I look forward to voting and supporting it next week. Thank you.
Okay, so we are now up to trustee questions and comments. If anyone would like to comment or speak, Jean.
Yes, earlier tonight I had a chance to have a quick discussion both with Amy and with Tanya on the notion of at a future date, us looking at our delegation policy. And so I look forward to perhaps having that opportunity to bring that forward at a future time. I don't really want to speak too much to it now at this time, but I just think that we need to have a quick review of that and make sure that we are able to be satisfied that that's effective for our use here at the board. Thank you.
And I just wanted to follow that up with letting everyone know that it's already on our list of to-do items for this year. So it's definitely on our radar. We've seen changes, many changes happen throughout the COVID period that need to be addressed with how we do our delegations now. And so, yeah, we've had suggestions from the public as well. So, yeah, something that we will get to it as soon as we're done with the framework.
All right, seeing no other speakers, we are up to public questions. I have checked, there weren't any. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. And before I call it adjourned, there will be 2 Committee of the Whole meetings in May. They're on May 10th and May 24th. If you are the chair of a committee, please send me your agenda items at least 1 week ahead of the scheduled Committee of the Whole. Both May agendas are pretty full. So right now, I think I'm accepting agenda items for June, June 14th, unless we can move some things around. If you're not the chair of a committee but would like an item added to the agenda, let me know so we can accommodate the request. And want to say thank you to everyone for attending and participating tonight. Our agenda has been exhausted. I call this meeting adjourned before 9 o'clock.
Thank you. Before I sign off, I'm wondering who would... Oh, gone.
Donna?
Oh, you are still there. Sorry, the screen went. I just wondered who I might be seeing at the Labor Relations Conference tomorrow.
Joanna?